What are you willing to give up to get everything you've ever wanted? That's not just a question, it's a challenge. Because the truth is, every big dream comes with a price, and most people aren't willing to pay it. They say they want success. They say they want greatness. But when it's time to sacrifice sleep, comfort, distractions, or even relationships, they hesitate. They look for shortcuts. They search for an easier path. But there is no shortcut to the top. There is no discount on dreams. If you want something extraordinary, you must be willing to give something extraordinary. That's the law. That's the truth. And deep down, you already know it. You see, the moment you dream big, the universe starts asking you questions. Are you serious? Are you ready? Are you willing to lose your comfort, your excuses, your fears, your laziness? Are you willing to be misunderstood, to walk alone, to keep going when it hurts? Most people say yes until the pain shows up, until the sacrifices become real. That's when they start backing down. That's when they settle. That's when they start shrinking their dreams to fit their comfort zone, instead of expanding themselves to fit their destiny. But you're here because you want more. You're not okay with average. You feel something inside you, a fire, a vision, a knowing that you were born for more than just survival. You're tired of playing small. You're tired of watching other people live the life you secretly desire. You're tired of talking about what you're going to do and never doing it. And you're ready. Ready to rise. Ready to stretch. Ready to sacrifice. Because here's the truth. Big dreams demand a big version of you. The strongest version, the most focused, most disciplined, most committed version of you. The version that doesn't wait for motivation but builds momentum through action. The version that doesn't ask for permission, doesn't seek approval, and doesn't need applause to keep going. That version is not born in ease. It is forged in sacrifice, built in discipline, sharpened in struggle. And this is where most people give up. Not because they're weak, but because they've been lied to. They've been told that success should feel good all the time, that purpose should come with peace, and passion should come without pain. But that's not how it works. The journey to your dream will break you before it builds you. It will strip you before it blesses you. It will require things from you that no one else sees. And that's the cost. That's the unspoken truth behind every story of greatness. They all paid a price. And now it's your turn to decide. Are you willing to pay yours? If you are, then stay. Listen closely. Because by the end of this, you'll know exactly what's been stopping you and exactly what needs to change. You'll understand why your life has felt stuck, why your progress has been slow, and why your dreams seem just out of reach. Not because you're not capable, not because you're not smart enough or talented enough, but because you haven't yet sacrificed the right things. Because you've been trying to carry your old self into your new life. And it doesn't work that way. Your dream isn't waiting for you to be ready. It's waiting for you to be willing. Willing to let go of distractions. Willing to walk away from what's familiar but no longer serves you. Willing to say no to temporary pleasure so you can say yes to permanent growth. Willing to make choices today that your future self will thank you for, even if no one else understands. Because here's the reward, the life you truly want, the one you've seen in your mind, felt in your spirit, dreamed of in your heart. It is real, it is possible, and it is waiting. But only if you're willing to give up the version of yourself that's been keeping you small. This is more than motivation. This is transformation. This is a wake-up call, a line in the sand, a moment where you stop wishing and start deciding. You don't get the dream and the comfort. You don't get the elevation and the excuses. You have to choose, every day, every moment. And the ones who make that choice, again and again, are the ones who rise. The ones who refuse to quit when it gets hard. The ones who know deep down that the pain of sacrifice is nothing compared to the pain of regret. So ask yourself again, what are you willing to give up to get everything you've ever wanted? Because your dream is waiting for your answer. Most people never realize how close they were to the life they wanted because they quit when the cost felt too high. Not because they lacked the ability, but because they couldn't let go of what was holding them down. They wanted the breakthrough, but refused the breakdown. They prayed for change, but clung to the very habits, people, and beliefs that kept them chained. And that's the silent tragedy of unrealized potential. Holding on to small things while begging for something big. You can't move into the next chapter of your life while dragging the baggage of the last one. You can't claim a future filled with greatness while still living in loyalty to your past. Growth isn't just about doing more, it's about becoming more. And becoming more often means subtracting what no longer aligns with where you're going. It means choosing focus over comfort, discipline over distraction, vision over validation. These aren't just ideas, they are requirements, non-negotiables for anyone who truly wants to rise. The reason your dream feels far away isn't because it's impossible. It's because you're still living like it's optional. Still treating your goals like wishes instead of assignments. Still hoping that motivation will save you, when in reality motivation fades, but decisions shape destiny. This is where you decide that average is no longer acceptable, that small thinking no longer fits, that the dream you carry in your heart is worth more than the excuses that have kept you stuck. It's not supposed to be easy. If it were easy, everyone would do it. Everyone would live their vision. Everyone would build the life they talk about. But most people choose comfort. Most people choose what's easy today and painful tomorrow. They avoid hard conversations. They procrastinate on priorities. They protect their old identity instead of building a new one. And then they wonder why nothing changes. But you're not like most people. You're not here to be another voice lost in the noise. You're here to become the exception. To do what others won't so you can live how others can't. It starts by killing the illusion that you have time to waste, that you can delay your purpose until you feel ready. You won't feel ready. You'll feel resistance, you'll feel fear, you'll feel doubt. But none of that matters when your commitment is stronger than your feelings. Time is not promised, opportunities don't wait, and while you sit in hesitation, someone else is out there sacrificing, showing up, and becoming the person you keep telling yourself you'll be someday. You don't get what you want. You get what you're willing to suffer for. Every great story, every powerful leader, every life that made a difference was shaped through sacrifice. The quiet hours of work no one saw, the lonely nights when quitting felt easier than continuing, the decisions to keep going when there was no guarantee of success. These are the moments that define you, not the applause, not the outcome, but the moments when you choose to suffer for what matters most. That's where your power is built. There will be times when it feels like you're losing everything, but you're not losing, you're trading. Trading small pleasures for lasting purpose. Trading opinions for impact. Trading ease for evolution. And the beautiful part? Every sacrifice rewires your brain. Every act of discipline trains your nervous system to operate at a higher level. You become mentally tougher, emotionally stronger, spiritually deeper. You stop looking for escape and start leaning into the process, trusting that who you are becoming is more important than where you are right now. So if the path feels heavy, good. That means you're on the right road. The dream you're chasing is supposed to feel impossible because it's calling out a version of you that hasn't existed yet. That version is forged in resistance, built in sacrifice, and awakened through relentless action. You will not find it by staying safe. You will not discover it by waiting. You will only meet it when you stop negotiating with your fears and start executing on your potential. Stop talking about the life you want and start building it. Even when you're tired, even when you're uncertain, even when no one claps for you, especially then, because those are the moments that test who you really are. And if you can stay true in the silence, if you can remain focused when no one is watching, the reward is greater than anything you've ever imagined. You have everything inside you, but that power only activates when you stop waiting for perfect and start moving with purpose. The sacrifices will be hard, yes, but the regret of not trying will be harder. Choose your heart, choose your path. And never forget this, the dream is real, but only for the one who refuses to quit. Keep sacrificing, keep rising, keep becoming. Your future is already waiting, don't make it wait too long. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you cast a vote for the future you say you want. Every time you delay gratification, you strengthen your character. And every time you choose to show up, especially when it's hard, you separate yourself from the masses who only move when it's easy. That's the invisible line between those who dream and those who become, those who wait and those who build, those who wish and those who win. The reason most people stay stuck is not because they lack talent. It's not because they aren't gifted or capable. It's because they refuse to let go of what's comfortable. Because even pain can become familiar, even mediocrity can feel safe. People stay in jobs they hate, in routines that drain them, in patterns that destroy them, not because they don't want more, but because they're afraid of what they'd have to lose to get it. But big dreams don't exist in comfort zones. And if you're not willing to leave the old behind, you'll never walk into what's waiting for you ahead. At some point, you have to decide, am I going to be ruled by comfort or by commitment? One leads to a quiet death, a slow, subtle fading away of who you were meant to become. The other leads to fire, growth, awakening. It burns away what's false and reveals what's real. Commitment doesn't ask if you feel like it. Commitment demands that you move even when you're tired, when you're doubting, when you're scared, especially when you're scared. Fear will whisper every reason to stay small. It will give you 100 excuses to shrink, to delay, to overthink. But fear is not a stop sign. It's a signal that you're getting closer to something meaningful, something powerful, something that matters. And the way you overcome fear is not by avoiding it, it's by stepping into it. By proving to yourself that your dreams are louder than your doubts, that your purpose is stronger than your hesitation. There will be moments when no one understands your grind, when the sacrifices you make look crazy to others. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them mock your silence, your discipline, your focus, because they don't see what you see, they don't feel what you feel, they don't carry your dream. That's yours, and no one has to believe in it but you. The most powerful thing you can do for your dream is protect it. That means guarding your time, guarding your energy, guarding your focus like your life depends on it, because it does. You can't build an extraordinary life while living like everyone else. You can't stay plugged into noise, drama, laziness, and expect clarity. You have to disconnect from what weakens you and reconnect with what fuels you. Read more, move more, think deeper, speak less, listen more. Choose people who challenge you, not coddle you. That's how you grow. Growth is never convenient. It will show up in the middle of your worst moments. It will demand more when you feel like you have nothing left. But it's in those exact moments, when you're broken, exhausted, discouraged, that something inside you ignites, a power you didn't know you had, a voice that says, keep going, don't stop now. You're almost becoming who you were meant to be. You don't become powerful by being handed success. You become powerful by earning it in silence. When no one is watching, when no one is cheering, when it's just you, your grind, and your goal, that's where strength is born. That's where purpose is purified. That's where the old you starts to die and the new you begins to rise. So if you feel like it's taking too long, if you're tired of waiting for results, remember this: success never happens overnight. It happens over time, over thousands of small, silent, unseen choices, over saying no when everyone else says yes, over working when others are resting, over choosing your future over your feelings. And every time you do that, you grow, you evolve, you become. The dream is not a fantasy, it's a destination. But the only road to it is paved with sacrifice. And that road is narrow, it's steep, it's lonely, but it's also the most meaningful path you will ever walk. Because it leads you back to your power, back to your purpose, back to the real you. You don't have to be perfect, you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to decide. Decide that you're done playing small. Decide that your life is worth the discomfort. Decide that your dream is bigger than your fear. And when you make that decision fully, deeply, without excuses, you become unstoppable. This isn't just about success. It's about becoming. becoming the kind of person who is no longer available for mediocrity, no longer available for distractions, doubts, or dead weight. You rise, you focus, you sacrifice. Because that's what greatness demands. And if you can keep walking this path, one painful, disciplined, courageous step at a time, you won't just reach your dream, you'll surpass it. And you'll become someone so powerful, so sharp, so unshakable, that nothing this world throws at you will ever break you again. You were not born to be average. Deep down you know this. You've felt it your entire life. That quiet urge, that relentless pull, that unshakable feeling that you're meant for more. Not just to exist, not just to repeat the same routine day after day, but to rise, to break cycles, to become something greater than what the world expects. That feeling is not a coincidence. It's not a fantasy. It's a call. And your response to that call will define your entire life. But here's the raw truth most people avoid. Answering that call requires pain. Not the kind that breaks you, but the kind that builds you. The kind that tears down everything false so what's real can rise. The kind that demands full honesty. Because if you want to become something more, you first have to confront everything that's been keeping you less. You can't change your life with the same patterns that created your pain. You can't grow by holding on to who you were. You have to sacrifice who you've been to make room for who you can become. Growth always begins with letting go. And it's not just about letting go of bad habits. It's about shedding the lies you've believed. The lie that you're not enough. The lie that your past defines you. The lie that it's too late. The lie that you need permission to rise. These lies are comfortable, they're familiar, but they are also chains. And if you're serious about your dream, then it's time to break every one of them. No more apologizing for your hunger. No more shrinking yourself to fit into places you've outgrown. No more waiting for someone to choose you, validate you, or give you permission. You've been called. And when life calls you, you don't ask why, you rise to meet it. Not with fear, but with fire. Not with excuses, but with execution. And yes, the road is lonely. Yes, people will misunderstand you. They'll say you've changed, and you have. You must. Change is the price of progress. Transformation is the toll you pay for purpose. You cannot step into your future while staying loyal to your past. You cannot rise while remaining surrounded by people who prefer comfort over courage. And you cannot become powerful while clinging to weakness in the name of familiarity. So ask yourself, what have you been holding on to that's been holding you back? What habits, what distractions, what relationships, what stories? Because your next level isn't waiting for more effort, it's waiting for less clutter. Clarity doesn't come from doing more, it comes from letting go, from clearing the noise, from focusing on what actually moves the needle in your life, and ruthlessly eliminating everything else. You already know what needs to go. You feel it. The same thoughts that keep haunting you, the same patterns that keep repeating, the same choices that always lead to regret. You know. And if you know, you're responsible. You can't claim ignorance. You can't pretend anymore. This is your moment to take full ownership. Not partial, not conditional, full. Because until you take responsibility for everything in your life, you'll never take control of anything in your life. It's time to stop playing defense with your future. Time to stop reacting to life and start creating it. You are not here to survive the day. You are here to shape it, mold it, command it. And that starts by controlling you, your thoughts, your habits, your responses, your time. Because if you can't lead yourself, you'll never lead your life. This is where the real work begins. The internal war. The battle between who you are and who you could be. And every day, every decision, every small choice either feeds your future or fuels your failure. There is no in-between. And the faster you embrace that truth, the faster your life begins to change. Discipline isn't punishment, it's self-respect. It's the voice inside you that says, I deserve more than this, I am made for more than this. It's getting up early when your body wants to sleep. It's saying no to distractions when your mind craves escape. It's staying focused when the world is trying to pull you in 100 different directions. And it's not glamorous. No one will clap for you in those moments. But those are the moments that shape you, that separate you, that define your path. Every sacrifice you make now is a seed that, if watered with consistency, will grow into a life most people only dream about. Not because you're better, but because you were brave enough to choose differently, to live intentionally, to let go when others held on, to rise when others settled. This is your invitation to stop existing and start becoming. Becoming the kind of person who doesn't beg for life to change, who commands it, who builds it, who sacrifices now so they can live free later. Your dream is not asking for more words, it's asking for more action. And it's not the size of your dream that matters, it's the size of the sacrifice you're willing to make for it. So look in the mirror not for what's missing but for what's waiting. The next version of you is ready, are you? There is a version of you that already has everything you've ever wanted. The discipline, the confidence, the clarity, the respect, the results. That version is not some distant fantasy. It's a reflection of your potential. But here's the truth that few are willing to face. You won't reach that version by wishing. You won't reach it by repeating the same days, the same choices, the same mindset that got you stuck. You reach it through sacrifice, through becoming someone who stops negotiating with weakness and starts operating from power. If your future self could speak to you right now, they wouldn't ask for more time. They'd beg you to stop wasting it. They wouldn't ask for comfort. They'd ask for courage. They'd tell you the life you dream of is real, but it's being held hostage by your fear, your doubt, and your excuses. Every time you procrastinate, every time you settle, every time you postpone action for tomorrow, you rob that future version of life. And for what? For momentary comfort? For shallow approval? For a false sense of security that's slowly stealing your purpose? There will never be a perfect moment. Never a day where everything lines up, where fear disappears, where the path is crystal clear. Waiting for the right time is the fastest way to kill your dream, because time does not wait for you, and neither does opportunity. The world rewards urgency, movement, boldness. It rewards those who are willing to take the leap without needing guarantees, those who step forward with shaky hands but a steady heart. That's how leaders are born. That's how legacies begin. Not in ease, but in fire. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't need to see every step. You just need to move, to act, to start. Because the truth is, your dream doesn't need perfection. It needs progress. It needs you to stop analyzing and start executing. You've done enough thinking, enough planning, enough talking. Now it's time to build, to show up, to do the work that most people avoid. That's the difference between the few who rise and the many who fall. The few trade comfort for growth. The few walk through fear instead of running from it. The few stop lying to themselves about why they're stuck and start doing something about it. And if you want to know how to change your life, start here. Change your standards. Raise them so high that anything less than excellence feels like disrespect to your future. Raise them until your old habits choke under the weight of your new expectations. Refuse to allow laziness, fear, or excuses to sit at your table anymore. You don't owe your old self comfort. You owe your future self results. If your goals don't scare you a little, they're not big enough. If your current life doesn't demand sacrifice, it won't produce transformation. Everything in life comes at a price. And the ones who reach the top are the ones who stopped asking how hard it would be and started asking if it would be worth it. Because they understood something simple but powerful: pain is temporary, regret is forever. You can suffer now and rise later, or you can take it easy now and live in regret for years. Either way, there's a cost, and you have the power to choose which one you'll pay. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to wake you up, push you forward, and do the work for you. That's your job. Your dream is your responsibility. Your future is your mission. And the moment you fully accept that, everything changes. You stop looking outward and start digging inward. You stop blaming the world and start building yourself. That's when the breakthrough happens. Not in the spotlight, but in silence. Not when everyone's watching, but when no one sees. Those are the moments that shape you, that define you, that prepare you for everything you've been praying for. And when it finally shows up, when the dream becomes real, you'll know why it took what it did. You'll understand why you had to let go, why you had to walk alone, why you had to push through the days when you had nothing left. Because nothing worth having ever comes cheap. Success doesn't go to the most talented, it goes to the most willing. Willing to grind, willing to suffer, willing to evolve. So don't ask if it's possible, ask if it's worth it. And if your answer is yes, then act like it, live like it, move like it. Every hour, every choice, every action must align with that answer. You don't need motivation, you need a decision. One decision, fully made, backed by relentless execution, can change everything. This is your moment, not tomorrow, not next year, now. And what you do with it determines who you become. So rise, get serious, get uncomfortable, get focused, because your dream is waiting, but only if you're willing to pay the price. The moment you stop asking for permission is the moment you start owning your life. Too many women are waiting for validation, for a green light, for someone to tell them they're allowed to rise. But the truth is, no one will hand you your power. You must take it. You must rise without applause, move without consensus, and believe without proof. Your strength does not require approval. Your silence does not mean surrender. It is the calm before your greatest transformation. When you stop explaining yourself, you reclaim your energy. When you stop proving yourself, you protect your spirit. And when you stop chasing, you become the one who is chased, not just by people, but by peace, by purpose, by everything meant for you. There is a powerful shift that occurs when you no longer need to be understood. When your focus is not on how others see you, but on how you see yourself, your life begins to reflect that internal authority. This is how you build unshakable self-respect. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces that were never meant to hold your fullness. You stop performing for those who only notice you when you're hurting. You stop negotiating your worth with people who are emotionally bankrupt. You stop explaining your boundaries and start enforcing them. And suddenly, your life becomes quieter, clearer, and far more aligned. Not everyone will understand your silence, and that's the point. Your peace will confuse people who thrive on chaos. Your confidence will offend those who benefit from your insecurity. Your distance will irritate those who only valued your availability, not your essence. That's how you know you're doing something right. You are no longer feeding the versions of yourself that kept you stuck. You are no longer performing emotional labor for people who can't carry their own. And you are no longer entertaining energy that doesn't nourish your soul. This isn't arrogance, it's awareness. The more self-aware you become, the less you tolerate anything that drains you. You start choosing discomfort over disrespect. You start choosing solitude over shallow company. You start choosing yourself even when it's lonely, even when it's misunderstood. That's what healing really is. It's not pretty or perfect, it's powerful. And it teaches you something that changes everything. Your energy is sacred. Where you place, it determines your entire life. You don't owe the world a soft version of yourself to be accepted. You don't have to dilute your power to make others comfortable. You're not here to be agreeable, you're here to be authentic. And authenticity is magnetic. It doesn't seek, it attracts. It doesn't beg, it embodies. When you live in your truth, even silently, you emit a frequency that cannot be faked or forced. That's why people will be drawn to you without understanding why. It's not what you say, it's who you are when you stop performing. Let go of the need to be liked. It's a silent trap that chains you to inauthenticity. Be more committed to being real than being received. Because when you're finally ready to stand in your truth, not everyone will clap, and that's okay. The applause of the crowd is a poor substitute for the approval of your soul, and your soul knows It knows who you are, even when the world forgets. It knows what you're capable of, even when others doubt you. And it knows that silence is not weakness. It's strength wrapped in intention. You don't need to argue with people who misjudge your silence. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. The most powerful statements you will ever make are the ones you never speak. Your actions, your boundaries, your absence, your elevation. These are your true responses, and they will echo louder than any explanation ever could. So walk away without warning, heal without announcement, grow without audience, elevate in silence. Because when your focus is inward, your power multiplies outward. When you stop being accessible to everyone, you become invaluable to the right ones. When you protect your time, you attract purpose. And when you choose peace, you finally meet the version of yourself that was waiting all along. The version that isn't afraid to walk alone if it means never settling again. There's a fire in you that doesn't need to be loud to be real. There's a power in your presence that doesn't need to be proven to be felt. The quieter you become, the more you hear your own wisdom. The more you let go, the more space you make for what is true. And the more you focus on yourself, the more you become unstoppable. Not because others changed, but because you did. You no longer fear solitude. You crave it. You no longer avoid growth. You welcome it. And you no longer seek permission to shine. You glow regardless. When a woman finally learns to redirect her energy inward, she stops asking the world to validate her worth. She no longer seeks proof of her beauty in a man's eyes or waits for approval before she makes a decision. Instead, she moves from a deep, unwavering center, a place where silence is not emptiness, but power. That's the kind of silence that speaks volumes. It's the kind of silence that commands attention without ever needing to raise a voice. Because when you no longer argue, beg, or explain yourself, you begin to radiate the energy of a woman who knows exactly who she is. That energy is magnetic. That energy is rare. The truth is, the world isn't built to applaud women who choose themselves first. It's designed to guilt them, to shame them into prioritizing everything and everyone else. But when a woman breaks free from that conditioning and learns to say no without guilt, to choose solitude without shame, and to walk away from anything that drains her, she becomes untouchable. Not because she's closed off, but because she's finally whole. There is a quiet revolution happening in your stillness. Every time you sit in your own company and refuse to chase, you reclaim a piece of your soul that was lost in noise. Every time you pause instead of react, you gain power. You stop being controlled by emotions, and instead become the master of your mind. That discipline rewires how people treat you. When you respect your own time, your own peace, and your own standards, others either rise to meet them or fall away. And when they fall away, you don't chase, you bless their departure. Because the woman you're becoming is no longer accessible to chaos. The kind of woman who rises in silence is the kind of woman who commands a room without uttering a word. Her presence is a boundary. Her standards are non-negotiable. Her peace is her protection. And it's not arrogance, it's alignment. When you stop making yourself available to everyone, you start attracting only those who match your frequency. Your silence filters out the noise. The people who were only attached to your dysfunction will disappear when you heal. Let them. Let their absence create space for something higher. Your silence is not weakness, it is clarity. It's a conscious choice to disengage from anything that distracts you from your growth. It's refusing to entertain small talk, petty drama, or meaningless connections. It's your refusal to dilute yourself to fit into rooms that don't respect your depth. This is how you protect your feminine power, by choosing your peace over performance. And the more you do this, the more powerful you become. There is an elegance in the way you no longer explain your boundaries, in the way you simply don't reply to disrespect, in the way you walk away from confusion. That kind of silence makes people uncomfortable because it forces them to reflect. It forces them to look in the mirror and realize they can no longer manipulate, control, or guilt you. You've outgrown the version of yourself who used to tolerate less than you deserve. That version was born of survival. This version is born of power. And power doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks like not texting back. Sometimes it looks like spending a Friday night alone, instead of entertaining someone who doesn't value your presence. Sometimes it looks like not explaining why you're unavailable, or why you stopped showing up where you were once overextended. Sometimes it looks like disappearing to heal, to rebuild, to reconnect with your essence. You don't owe the world access to your journey. Growth is not for display, it's sacred, it's personal. And the woman who learns to grow in silence becomes the kind of woman who doesn't need to prove anything. Because her life becomes the proof. Her presence becomes the message. Her peace becomes her signature. You are not here to beg to be understood. You are here to be in alignment. And alignment doesn't need approval. It only needs truth. When you walk in truth, you naturally repel anything that isn't authentic. That's why people who once had access to you may now feel confused. You're not who you used to be. You've upgraded your spirit, your energy has elevated, and now not everyone can reach you. Let that be your standard moving forward. Let your silence be sacred. Let your energy speak louder than your words. Let your boundaries be soft but immovable. Let your absence teach people what your presence used to give them for free. And most importantly, let your life be the quiet, unstoppable revolution that reminds other women. You don't have to fight for attention when you are the embodiment of peace. The world may try to provoke you, to pull you back into chaos, to test your silence. But remain centered, remain calm. Because silence is not about suppression, it's about elevation. It's about choosing not to lower your frequency for anything or anyone. That kind of restraint isn't weakness, it's power refined. And the more you practice it, the more untouchable you become. Not because you're cold, but because you're clear. You are no longer here to convince anyone of your worth. You are here to live in your fullness, to radiate, to rise, to remain unshaken no matter how loud the world gets. And that is a woman no one forgets. Silence is no longer a void, it becomes a weapon. When you pull back, when you stop explaining, defending, or proving your worth, you force the world to lean in and pay attention. Most people are addicted to reacting. They respond to every insult, every trigger, every shift in energy. But the woman who can remain centered, who has trained herself to respond with stillness rather than chaos, commands a rare form of power. Her energy becomes magnetic, not because she's loud, but because her restraint hints at deeper strength. People begin to wonder what she knows, what she sees, and why she refuses to play their emotional games. That curiosity builds respect, and respect builds influence. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. The need to constantly explain yourself comes from an old wound. The fear of being misunderstood, dismissed, or rejected. But a woman who has healed knows that being understood by everyone is not a requirement for peace. You only need to be understood by yourself. When you hold your silence, you stop negotiating your value in spaces that were never meant to hold your greatness. You stop watering down your fire to comfort people who fear its heat. You stop offering explanations to people who already made up their minds about you. Silence becomes your boundary, your protection, and your form of self-respect. The more you remain grounded, the more others become ungrounded. Because silence forces people to deal with their own projections. When you refuse to explain, people are left alone with their assumptions. And that's uncomfortable for them. They begin to reveal themselves. They show you who they are without you ever needing to ask. People who were only in your life to drain you will feel suffocated by your stillness. They thrived on your reactions, your vulnerability, your need to please. But now, your lack of response exposes their dependence on your energy. And that's when you realize the power of withdrawing isn't about giving up. It's about leveling up. Every time you stay silent in the face of provocation, you reclaim your energy. You no longer leak power through arguments, over-explaining, or trying to fix other people's perceptions. You channel that energy inward, toward your goals, your healing, your evolution. You become unavailable for low-frequency conversations and high-drama dynamics. And in that space, you rise. The woman who once poured herself out for others becomes the woman who protects her inner sanctuary at all costs. She no longer allows access to people who can't handle her depth. Her silence now speaks her standards. There's something deeply unsettling about a woman who stops chasing, not because she doesn't care, but because she finally realized her peace is more valuable than anyone's approval. That kind of woman becomes untouchable, not because she's cold, but because she's finally aligned with her worth. She doesn't need closure from people who shattered her. She doesn't seek validation from people who disrespected her. Her silence becomes a shield, not out of fear, but out of clarity. She no longer fights to be chosen, she chooses herself. And in doing so, she becomes unforgettable. The more you practice this, the more you feel a shift inside. You start walking differently. You speak less, but with more weight. Your presence becomes felt, not because you're trying, but because you're in alignment. You don't entertain drama. You don't justify your boundaries. You don't ask for love, you embody it. And people will notice. Some will try to provoke the old you. They'll poke at your silence, hoping to resurrect the version of you that needed to defend, argue, or chase. Don't fall for it. They missed the version of you that made them comfortable. But you've outgrown that woman. You're no longer available for cycles of emotional chaos. This transformation isn't about becoming hard. It's about becoming discerning. It's not about building walls. It's about building standards. Silence isn't passive. It's intentional. It means you're no longer speaking the language of desperation, insecurity, or fear. You're speaking the language of value, presence, and power. And only those who can meet you at that level will be allowed in. You're not isolating, you're elevating. You're not distant, you're focused. And anyone who confuses your silence for weakness will eventually learn it's the most potent form of strength. Stay on this path. Let your silence cleanse the spaces that once demanded your noise. Let it be the barrier between your peace and their projections. Let it be the filter that separates the temporary from the timeless. You don't need to explain what you're doing, where you're going, or why you're no longer the same. Your results will speak. Your evolution will be proof. And those who doubted you will find themselves in awe of the woman who rose, not by fighting louder, but by standing stronger. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to evolve, to lead, and to protect your soul's mission. So protect it. Speak when it adds value. Be silent when it protects peace. You don't owe the world access to every part of you. Your energy is sacred. Let them wonder. Let them miss you. Let them talk. Your silence is your final word. And it echoes longer than anything you could ever say. When you choose silence and self-focus, you enter a realm most people never dare to explore. The inner sanctuary where your power, your clarity, and your essence reside, untouched by the noise of the world. In that sacred space, you're no longer performing for approval, reacting out of habit, or scrambling to be understood. You are still but not stagnant. You are quiet but not invisible. You are calm but not weak. Your silence becomes your strength, and your solitude becomes your shield. This kind of focus eliminates the need for validation. You begin to understand that people's opinions of you are merely projections of their own insecurities, not reflections of your truth. You stop defending yourself because there's nothing to defend. You stop explaining yourself because your life is no longer an audition for someone else's approval. And in that detachment, you become magnetic, not because you're trying to attract, but because your presence becomes undeniable. The woman who is silent and focused is the woman who cannot be moved. She cannot be manipulated with guilt, baited with drama, or distracted with empty noise. She is not here to participate in chaos. She is here to build empires, in her mind, in her spirit, and in her reality. When you truly start focusing on yourself, you realize how much time you wasted trying to fix, rescue, or convince people who were never invested in your growth. The woman who has awakened knows her energy is a currency, and not everyone deserves access to it. She stops pouring into broken cups. She stops showing up for people who wouldn't flinch if she disappeared. And in that withdrawal, she regains her worth. Not because someone finally acknowledged it, but because she remembered it. Everything about her begins to shift. She dresses for herself, speaks for herself, chooses for herself. Her no becomes sacred, her yes becomes intentional. She no longer allows others to write her story with their expectations or rewrite her worth with their absence. The people who once drained her now find her unreachable, not because she is cold, but because she has reclaimed her warmth for herself. She's not bitter, she's better. She's not closed off, she's selective. Her standards rise, her peace deepens, and her circle tightens. Because when you stop begging to be chosen, you start choosing yourself, and that changes everything. The world doesn't know what to do with a woman who no longer seeks permission to live fully. They'll call her selfish, too quiet, too intense. But what they're really saying is this: she's outgrown the role they assigned her. And that's exactly what growth looks like. Breaking out of the box, refusing the script, and daring to evolve even if no one claps for it. The applause you need is internal. It's the moment your mind aligns with your purpose. It's the moment your soul exhales and says, finally, she's listening. Because most women aren't tired from doing too much. They're tired from doing too much for others and not enough for themselves. The exhaustion doesn't come from the effort, it comes from the misdirection of energy. So when you choose you, unapologetically, relentlessly, consistently, you break cycles that have been passed down for generations. You become the woman who heals, who builds, who elevates not just herself but the energy of everyone she touches. But you do it in silence. Not out of fear, but out of sacred reverence for your peace. You realize that not everything needs to be announced. You don't need to prove your progress. Your glow will speak louder than your words. Your boundaries will speak louder than your explanations. Your results will speak louder than your defenses. And in this energy you find something rare, inner peace that can't be shaken by outer storms. You stop chasing closure, justice, or even understanding from those who wronged you. You no longer need their apology when you've already set yourself free. You stop trying to make people see your value when you already see it so clearly. Your healing no longer needs to be proven. It is lived. And that is the ultimate power move. To live so deeply in alignment with who you are becoming that the noise around you fades, the distractions dissolve, and the only thing left is your truth. There will be days where the silence feels heavy, where the focus feels lonely. But don't mistake solitude for lack. What you're feeling is the weight of transformation. You're not being punished, you're being purified. You're shedding layers of who you were taught to be, to return to who you truly are. And that version of you is not meant to be rushed, diluted, or explained. She is meant to rise, slowly, silently, powerfully. So honor her becoming. Protect it, nourish it. Let the world wonder what you're up to. Let them question your calm. Let them speculate in your absence. Because while they're guessing, you're growing. And when you finally emerge, grounded, radiant, and unshakable, they'll see what happens when a woman stops begging and starts building, when she stops reacting and starts rising, when she stops chasing and starts choosing. That's not just self-focus, that's self-mastery, and no one can take that from you. Every time you choose silence over chaos, you're not being passive. You're commanding power. You are declaring to the world that your peace is too expensive for cheap drama. And when you focus on yourself, you stop asking others to fill your void. You become the source. You stop chasing validation. You stop waiting for people to notice your worth. You already know it. That inner knowing becomes a shield, subtle but unbreakable. When a woman grounds herself in self-respect, in boundaries sharpened by wisdom and pain, she doesn't need to scream her worth. Her energy announces it before she enters the room. That's the kind of silent strength that can't be manipulated, distracted, or diluted. The most dangerous version of a woman is not the loud one, it's the healed one. The woman who no longer needs to explain, justify, or seek revenge. She's mastered the art of emotional detachment. She's no longer reactive to what isn't aligned with her. She sees, understands, and lets it pass. Not because she doesn't care, but because she values herself more than the temporary satisfaction of engaging with disrespect. This level of composure isn't born overnight. It is forged in the fire of betrayal, silence, abandonment, and growth. Every scar became a lesson, every tear was a reset. And now she wears her self-worth like armor, not to battle others, but to protect her peace. Focus has a gravitational pull. When your energy is no longer scattered trying to fix, prove, or chase people, that same energy becomes magnetic. You begin attracting experiences, people, and opportunities that mirror your growth. This is not magic, it's alignment. Life meets you at your level of self-respect. What you tolerate reflects what you believe you deserve. So when you raise your standards, not just in words but in action, everything shifts. The wrong people fade. The wrong habits die. The false identities you once clung to disintegrate. What remains is pure, focused, intentional. And here's the truth. Most people won't like this version of you. They were comfortable with your wounds, your people-pleasing, your self-doubt. But you are no longer available for their comfort. You are available for your growth. You are no longer choosing guilt when you say no. You're choosing self-respect. You're no longer measuring your worth by someone else's ability to value you. You're the standard now. And you will not shrink to make others feel comfortable. Not anymore. You've learned that silence doesn't mean weakness, it's strategic. You've learned that solitude doesn't mean loneliness, it's sacred. You've learned that slowing down doesn't mean you're behind, it means you're building with intention. You've stopped performing, you've started living. And as you continue to pour into yourself, you become full, so full that you no longer operate from lack, fear, or scarcity. That fullness radiates. It doesn't need permission. It doesn't need applause. It just is. Growth isn't loud. It doesn't always post updates. It's quiet. It happens when no one is watching. In the choices you make when it's just you and your thoughts. When you choose the higher road. When you walk away without causing a scene. When you delete the message instead of sending it. When you unfollow what disturbs your peace. When you get up early to journal, to meditate, to realign. These small, invisible victories are the foundation of your transformation. And over time, they become visible. In how you speak, in how you move, in how you respond, in what you no longer entertain. You were never meant to stay small. You were just waiting for the moment you realized your power was never in being liked, needed, or accepted. It was always in your ability to rise above, to love yourself through your darkness, to heal without bitterness, to glow without asking for light. That's where your true power lies. And now that you see it, feel it, own it, nothing can dim it. Keep focusing, keep choosing silence over noise, peace over pressure, healing over reacting. Because every time you do, you build a life rooted in self-respect, not survival. You're not the same woman you used to be. And you shouldn't be. You've evolved. Now walk like it, speak like it, move like it. Not for them, for you. Because you finally understand your energy is currency, your attention is power, and your peace is non-negotiable. And when a woman truly grasps that, everything falls into place. When a woman focuses on herself, she returns to the core of her power. No longer does she seek validation and external approval or chase affection from sources that only know how to take. She becomes her own anchor. She learns to choose herself before anyone else does. This isn't selfishness, it's self-respect. It's the quiet strength of knowing that her energy is sacred, her presence is a privilege, and her love is not something to be earned through suffering, but something to be cherished by those worthy of it. This kind of woman no longer begs to be seen, heard, or understood. She understands herself. That's enough. She no longer wastes words trying to explain her worth to people committed to misunderstanding her. She no longer seeks peace in places that drain her. She simply steps back and watches as everything that was never meant for her begins to fade away. And in that silence, she doesn't crumble, she flourishes. In the space she creates, by staying silent, healing begins. Her mind becomes clearer, her soul feels lighter, and her heart, once bruised by unmet expectations and broken loyalty, begins to beat with renewed purpose. The silence she chooses is not a sign of weakness, it's an act of rebellion against chaos. It's a choice to protect her peace. It's how she reclaims control over her life. In a world that pressures women to constantly explain, please, and prove themselves, her silence is loud. It speaks of dignity. It declares boundaries. It commands respect. People who once played with her time and emotion start to notice the shift, not because she raised her voice, but because she withdrew it. Her absence becomes her greatest statement. And those who once took her presence for granted begin to realize its weight. But she doesn't go back. She doesn't entertain regret or reopen closed doors. She knows that growth means outgrowing, and she's no longer afraid to outgrow relationships, environments, or habits that keep her small. She's done settling for crumbs when she deserves the feast. She's done explaining her sensitivity, her dreams, or her desire for more,